Time to get out to our audience now. They've got lots of questions for us today. So Jennifer, you have a question for Colin and Justin you'd like to ask. What would you like to ask them?
I just need help with whatever you can offer me. We've lived in the house for about a year, and I've been too overwhelmed to start with anything. So, yeah.
Okay, well, you know what, Jennifer, let's start off with the positives. It's a beautiful house. When was the house built?
1862.
1862,
nice.
okay, you know, so you've got really generously proportioned rooms, you know, I mean, the windows are amazing. You know, I think make a list of the things you love. Put your positives on one side and then deal with all the negatives, get them out of there. For me, you know, I look at this room and I'm thinking, okay, there's no continuity, you know, and when you looked at Brian's house that you just saw in the clip there, you know, it's all about the flow, how you go from one room to the next. So think about how you're going to use colours to tell a story from the front door and actually punctuate all the rooms. In here, this room here, you can see it's got a textured effect on the ceiling. And you have mentioned that you're worried about cracking in the old kind of cornice work there. So you want to deal with that first, you know, make sure that that cornice is going nowhere. You don't want to die. Nobody wants that to fall on their head. And while you're at it, lose the texture, because it always looks grey. Even if you paint that white, it always looks a bit heavy overhead. You want that to be flat, and then it'll take your colour choice much better. And I would say that actually adding features adds value. And Justin mentioned this about maybe even putting some panelling in the room.
Yeah, I really like the idea of that. Just before I go into the panelling, I just want to go back to the statement that you made. You don't know where to start. Room by room, as Colin said, you've got to work through your process. But don't be daunted by the scale of doing an entire house at one time. Be less daunted by doing it project by project. So start in your living room, start in your kitchen or wherever. But yeah, getting back into, I love panelling. And we have a house of a similar period to this. Our house was built in 1833 in Scotland. It's a big old affair like this. And we panelled all the grand rooms, and the panelling looks as if it's been there since the day the house was built. But in actual fact, it's constructed from picture rail, MDF trunking and flat MDF. Now, you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing. That's something that you can't do yourself unless you have to be unless you're a really skilled draftsperson and are really good with a mitre saw.
Yeah, she looks kind of handy.
You probably are. Yeah, you've got the tricks. But really think about that. Something like paneling for me would be amazing. We used an 18-inch panel with three frames of picture frame around each, and they were laid onto the wall. They look absolutely magical. Actually, if you jump onto colinandjustin.tv, that's our website, you can see the rooms that we've done. But I really like that. Now, colour-wise, I've been looking through the Gluckstein home range, Brian's range. I love anything with a very slightly opal undercurrent. So this very, very slight lilac, which is just a few steps beyond white, that will really pop in your room. And if you pick out the detailing around the windows, the architraves and such like in pure white, then you're going to have a fantastic contrast. Now, are you a modern furniture girl or a traditional furniture girl?
Like, I do love my antiques, but I like it to throw it in a modern way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance, isn't it? Because if you've got old plus old plus old, it equals old, you know, and I think it's about trying to showcase your antiques. I mean, certainly, you know, using a plain backdrop, you know, and actually not going for kind of like big patterns on the walls will let your antiques actually really stand out, almost like an art gallery where you can actually stand back and appreciate the pieces. I think you just need to map out your rooms, you know, decide on how you use your furnishings, because everything's way too small at the moment and doesn't match, and think about continuity. I would go down the whole linen route. Beautiful kind of like linen on the furniture and really soften it up and then bring the antiques in.
One very last quick point as well. You've got a kind of a cherry toned or a rose toned floor. It's nice in the right context, but it's quite difficult to match things around a red timber. It's much easier to match things with a grey toned timber or just a nutty brown timber. So whip all that off. Is it in good nick? Where are you? I've lost sight of you. There you are. Whip all of that off and sand it back. And don't try and rush a job like that. Get somebody, again, who knows what they're doing. Because this is a beautiful house with lovely inherent features. So really lavish it slowly.
Yeah, and finally, grow a tree out of the ground.
Yeah, that's going to work.
Then make
Cut
it
the
go
floor open.
to the top.
Yeah.
Like
Cut a corner
real
of the floor.
Tree. Yeah. Okay, let's get Cheryl now for Brian. What would you like to ask Brian, Cheryl?
We've just replaced all our windows and doors and are now looking at redoing a kitchen.
Well, Cheryl has a handy husband named Randy.
Yay, Randy.
Yes, unfortunately.
Randy.
Handy Randy. Unfortunately, Randy doesn't move that fast. So he's handy but slow.
Is he slow, Randy?
So this has been like this for quite some time. You have to focus in on this. So Randy, we've got to figure out how we can move this along. I know you work hard, but we've got to finish this off. This reminds me of Green Acres. Remember Green Acres? Yeah. And here it is. Randy's marked out the island in the center. But what I would do is he's knocked out some walls. What I would do is I would do a straighter island, dividing this space. It used to be dining room, living room, kitchen. They're going to have a living room in another area. So the dining room stays. Keep the kitchen in the corner, do a long island like this. I'd probably put the cooktop on the wall. The only reason, I know Randy wants it on the island, and you can't have it on the island, but you have a fan hood hanging in the middle. And when people are sitting around the island, you have the heat and splashing and things like that. So it's best to keep it off to the side if he wants it in the center, because I like to have buffets and spread out the food on the island and have it as a bar. So that's why I like the island clean. But if he wants it there, just get a great hood. Now, I would put a seating area in there. I wouldn't bring the island out to like that. I would bring it like this, put a small sofa or a pair of chairs here, and I would flank that with more cabinetry. I'd do a mixture of bookcases and pantry. Because you've eliminated all the walls, you have no food storage. So you can put food storage here and below and have a small area of cookbooks and display here. You can put some small little nesting tables, so it's a great place for entertaining and walking out to the garden. But it would be a great room. Just, I think Randy has to take off a few weeks.
Maybe. Maybe get a bit of help.
A little drywall and a few weeks.
Yeah,
and get
for
moving on
sure.
that.
All right, break time. We're coming up. It's home day.